We have what's called standard form. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. The h and the k come from the center. The ordered pair of the center. The r is the radius. One other thing I want to point out to you, which we may have questions on later, is these minus signs. There's a minus sign in front of h and a minus sign in front of k, which really make us change the signs. The signs end up being the opposite of what you might think they would be. So we'll come back to that later. But as this first example, we have a circle. We would want to locate its center and find the ordered pair of that. Well, it has an ordered pair of 0, 0. So those are going to function as the h and the k. And we also need to know the radius of this circle. So to do your radius, start at the circle and either count to the right or to the left or up or down. Don't count diagonally. If I go up, I go 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units. So my radius is 3. I now know the h and the k and the r. So I can fill those into the formula. Formula says x minus h. So we'd plug in a 0 for the h. We close the parentheses and we square them, plus parentheses y minus the k, which is also a 0. Fill in a 0, square it, equals r squared. Plug in your r, which is 3, we square it. This can now be simplified further. The first set of parentheses says x minus 0. Well, if you subtract 0 from x, you still just have x. So if it's a 0, I really get to drop it, and then since I'm dropping that, I can drop the parentheses also, so I just have x squared. Plus over here, y minus 0, that's the same as y, and so just y squared. Equals 3 squared, we would call 9. So there's the simplified answer. That's the equation of that circle. X squared plus 9 squared equals, sorry, x squared plus y squared equals 9. The next example, center is also a 0, 0. That's my h and k. Notice they're going by 2's this time. So as we count the radius, since we're going by 2's, it's 2, 4, 6. We have a radius of 6. So we'll plug those numbers in. X minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared plus 6 squared. X minus 0 simplifies to x, so we have x squared. On the y, we can also drop the 0 in the parentheses, so y squared. Oh, I put up above plus 6 squared. That was supposed to be an equal 6 squared. Okay. So x squared plus y squared equals 36. Next problem, here the center has moved. So we have to find the ordered pair of the center. Looks like we went 3 units to the right, and then went up 1. So 3, 1 is my center, so that's the h and the k. They're not zeros this time. For the radius, 1, 2, we went 2 to the right. So the radius is 2. So let's fill this in. Y minus your h, which is 3, squared plus, or that was supposed to be x, not y. Okay. Y minus my k, which is 1, equals 2 squared. The only thing that can simplify here is instead of 2 squared, I can write that as 4. X minus 3 doesn't simplify, y minus 1 doesn't simplify, so there's the answer. One thing I want to point out to you again, I made allusion up above to the fact that there were negatives in front of the h and the k in the equation. Down here, my center was positive 3, positive 1. Notice in the equation I have a negative 3 and a negative 1. Those signs did change. In the next section, we're doing the same thing. It just gives us not a picture, but just it tells us the h and the k, what the center is, and it tells us the r. So x minus 0 squared plus y minus negative 9. Notice we have a double negative there. We'll deal with that in just a moment. Equals 4.2 squared. As I go to simplify this, I can just call the first term x squared. For the y, when I have a double negative minus a negative, double negative is really a positive, so I can recall that y plus 9 squared equals 4.2 squared, which is 17.64. Once again, let me point out, the center was 0, negative 9. 0 doesn't, we can just drop that. But on the negative 9, because it was a negative 9, we have a y plus 9. The sign was the opposite. We'll try and go a little faster on this next one. It has a center at 0. So instead of doing the 2 steps, drawing the first equation and then fixing it, I think we can just say x squared plus y squared. Since they're zeros, equals 9 squared, which we know is 81. So x squared plus y squared equals 81. The next problem. If it's a positive 1, I'll have x minus 1 squared. Because of the positive 3, I'll have y minus 3 squared. The radius is 4. 4 squared is 16. So x minus 1 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 16. And then the last two problems, we go backwards. They give us the equation. We have to draw the circle. So you're going to need to know the center and the radius. We can get those two things from the equation, and then we can graph it. So on the first one, it says x squared plus y squared, so they must have both been zeros. So the center is 0, 0. And then at the end where it says 64, we know 64 is the square of the radius. So square root 64, you get 8. That's the radius. So let's go ahead and I'm going to first plot the center, 0, 0. And then I have a radius of 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a point 8 units away. I'm going to go to the right, I'll do it to the left, I'll do it to the top, I'll do it to the bottom, and then I'll connect those points. They're going by 2's here. So if I go to the right of the center, 8 units, 2, 4, 6, 8. Go above the center, 8 units, 2, 4, 6, 8. To the left, 2, 4, 6, 8. And below, 2, 4, 6, 8. So we've got our 4 points. We're not going to include the center, but we have to now try to connect those with the circle. That's usually easier said than done. So my encouragement to you is try not to make it look like a diamond. When you connect it, try to curve those so it actually does look at least somewhat circular. All right, next problem, center. Okay, this one's not at 0, 0. But I want you to remember that in the equation, it's the opposite signs. We see the opposite sides of what we really want. So here I see x plus 2. If it's a plus 2, I know I want the opposite sign, so I actually want a negative 2. The next parenthesis, the one with y, it says negative 1, but I want the opposite sign, so I do a positive 1. So just remember to switch your signs for your center. Your radius, I've got a 9, so the square root of that is 3. We have a radius of 3. So now we want to plot the point negative 2, 1. So 2 units to the left of the origin and then up 1. Now I have a radius of 3. They're going by 1s again this time. So go 3 to the right, 1, 2, 3. 3 above the center. 3 to the left of the center and below. And then once again, try to connect those dots with a circle.